Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Kirby Russia, where we're going to kind of break down basically what kind of things can make foreign people who've immigrated to Russia decide to leave. This is going to be sort of a sad and somewhat angry podcast because I was just informed, this would be the third time I've been informed within, say, the last year of a foreigner I've known for quite some time, actually the fourth, well, 3 or 4 times, of a foreigner I've known for a long time who has had to call it quits. Be they sort of being forced out of the system, as in not being able to get, residency, or there were some kind of major problems, or they chose to give up for various different reasons. I won't tell you much about this latest person because details could reveal who this person is, and so we're not going to do that. But we're going to talk again about the whole logic of immigration, because I feel like I've been doing, to an extent, to you guys, a bit of a disservice. You know, I make a lot of videos where we talk about immigration, and I try to specifically speak in a very harsh way because the realities of immigrating to Russia are very hard. This person who's decided to leave, they would agree with that statement. But for some reason, despite all these podcasts, despite all this information, especially if you're on the actual American Villages channel, which kind of only has information related to that, especially recently since the project is ever so closely inching its way towards being realized, you know, I think I'm not doing a good job. So first off, for today's podcast, I'm going to apologize. I apologize if I've relayed any information in a bad way, and I haven't really relayed the seriousness of this issue. I'd also like to apologize to a couple people I've been a little bit harsh to in the comments recently. Maybe I've gone over the line. But there's a reason that I'm angry. There's not a reason to go over the line and misbehave. But there is a source of the frustration is, I see people who wanted to build a life in Russia, like many people who follow my channel want to, and I've seen that their opinion on everything and sort of their dreams have fallen apart, basically. And so when I see in the comments, this often, mostly from Russians, and again, why do Russians follow some kind of channel in English about people moving to Russia is just very weird. It is one of the weird foreigner obsession sort of tropes that Russians have. I don't understand it myself fully, but it is the way it is. But again, because Russians who are born here, not people who are maybe born in like the backwoods of Tajikistan and wanted to come home, they would know how the migration system works, kind of. People who are born here don't understand it, and so they constantly, even on my media, where my moderators, I think, do a very good job of trying to shut these lies down, they tell people that it's easy, that all you have to do is like pay some sort of bribe to some guy, just come here, everything will be fine, and that kind of stuff it destroys lives. It destroys lives, and that's why I probably lost a subscriber today for the American Village channel. But I kind of got really angry at this guy because he's doing kind of the same thing, but he was doing it more from the foreigner perspective, where there are some foreigners who also really overinflate or underinflate, excuse me, the seriosity of moving to Russia, and just how frustrating it can be. For foreign people, I don't quite understand why people are doing this. Maybe it's some kind of flex, like, I could do it, so, it's no problem. I don't understand why some of you guys are doing that, but you cannot and should not tell people that something that's essentially they're risking their future on, maybe not their life in the literal sense that they're not going to die, but they're really risking their financial future. Going back to America after living here for a long time is probably not the best thing to do in terms of, let's just say, employment and certain other factors. And so I wanted to have this discussion about like harsh, brutal realities of moving to Russia, and also to start off with first, like, I apologize, and now to tell people, especially the Russians who are watching, stop giving advice about immigration. Stop it. You don't know anything. The second one, for the people who are English speakers, stop portraying moving to Russia as being an easy process. It is not an easy process. Stop sharing goofy schemes and stuff you've heard from something you read on the internet that you don't really understand, and that's going to get you in the door to Russia within a couple months, and you'll show me or whoever that you're the real smarty pants out there, because it isn't going to work. Okay, one thing that we've covered on this channel, but again, since we're on this sort of having a dark podcast today, very dark and moody, negative podcast today, one of the things that you haven't encountered, if you haven't been to Russia, is you haven't encountered the bureaucracy. And people, and a lot of times in the West, think, oh, well, there's a lot of bureaucracy. That just means it's like in my home country, where, like in America, for example. But there's just more of it, or it takes longer. No. The logic is completely different. As I've told you before, the ultimate example, the real basis of where this comes from. So in America, when you submit documents to the government, you say, to the best of my knowledge, the documents that I submit to you are truthful and verified and so on. Basically, you say, to the best of my knowledge, hey, as far as I know, this is the absolute, like, super mega truth, and I sign my name. And then the U.S. government accepts it, and everyone goes forward. I guess those, that sort of ideal came from a different time. In Russia, that is absolutely not the case. We are dealing with a post-Soviet society, and under communism, there were no gentlemen's agreements. It's essentially you are trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, like you're almost a defendant in a court case, that you're actually submitting legitimate documents and information, this, that, or the other. And the government is looking at you from the standpoint of like some sort of extremely skeptical cop listening to some guy try to convince him not to take him downtown. So essentially, every time you go to the government to do something, it's like a mini court case. Whether it's people I know, Russian people, who filed for certain things related to like disabilities, right, to get some kind of disability payment. You're going in there, and it doesn't matter if you're in a wheelchair. In fact, it doesn't even matter if your legs are missing. Unless you have a document that says that your legs are missing with a fancy stamp, you have 2 legs, okay? That is the severity of the way the bureaucracy works, and they don't take your word for anything. So again, guys, I don't mean to be negative. Today I do mean to be negative, because I do not want people's lives to be destroyed. I do not want people to come here, have everything go south, and then they leave and they tell a whole bunch of other people that Russia's a horrible place and everything's horrible and my life was destroyed by Russia. You shouldn't go there, because I think Russia does offer a lot, but you really have to play by its rules. Another thing, which is one of my many Tim Kirby Russia cliches that some of you have probably heard before, but I don't think I say enough, is that people don't understand. And I know this is kind of might sound weird, but they don't understand that Russia is bigger than you. No one is waiting for your ass here. No one cares about you. The government doesn't care. It doesn't matter if Putin said, oh yeah, it would be really nice if we could attract more family-oriented people. They don't care. He may have said that. He may have meant it. I think he actually did mean it. But the system does not. And you're coming here from the standpoint of how can I, it's the whole, I'm terrible with expressions, the whole, what is it? Was it John F. Kennedy? Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Russia is very much under that logic, okay? So, in fact, I just had someone who was Russian tell me something very, very good, very, very wise that I actually saved. Because I was talking to them about the American, Western, I should say, foreigners who've left recently. And this person asked a question. They sort of were like, well, why are they leaving? Reason one, is it because there's still the feeling that, as the great white conquerors over the Indians and Africans, that the Aborigines of Russia, or primitive masses, should be joyful to their arrival. Again, the Russian language is very different. So basically, it's sort of like was why are Western foreigners leaving? And this is a Russian's opinion on that. So their option one was it's because Western foreigners expect the sort of primitive Aboriginal Russians to bow before their Western greatness, or is it because they expected an America but without the LGBT stuff? And I thought that that perception was also very interesting. And I kind of, after talking to hundreds of people and sort of monitoring a lot of messages, my let's just say my Russian counterpart here makes a point. I would say especially the second one, how in a lot of ways people expect Russia to be like America or the West, depending, but without like the gay stuff and then that kind of like destructive stuff. And it's kind of not. I mean, in some ways it is. Like I always argue that Russia is more like North America or Canada than say Europe. In a lot of ways, in terms of people's attitudes, especially like when you get outside the city of Moscow and you realize that everything is about driving in cars and big roads, and you start getting away from the apartments and you start getting the single family house universe of Russia and all the stuff. You start to get you get more America vibes. In fact, I just got back from a trip to Nizhny Novgorod, and as you're going on a road trip in Russia, you're like, you squint your eyes and you're like, am I in America again? Okay, so, but anyways, so there are some things where you say, like I said, you can squint your eyes and feel like you're in North America. Let's include Canada in this too when you're in Russia. But the attitude and the way people do things is significantly different. Especially, like I said, if you think you're bigger than Russia, and that goes back to that point one that I think the person I was talking to relayed, the Russian person. They sort of saw it as more of a racial thing, but I think it's maybe not so much a racial thing of seeing as foreigners seeing themselves as like the white savior of Russia, but more that sort of Western attitude of we're individualists, I'm the epicenter of the universe, and I'm bigger than Russia. I think that's maybe more of it. And I think that's not the reason people would leave Russia, but I think that could be some of the sources of like frustration and disappointment. Because again, like one thing, people keep one of the most sort of vastly most stupid debates that we've had on my channel or the American Villages channel is the thing. It's like, well, I don't want to live around Moscow or St. Petersburg because there's not enough, ecology or nature. It's not pretty enough. And again, it's only because you've never been around here and you have no idea how big the region around Moscow is and how much nature and pretty stuff there is there. But anyways, and you're like, well, I want to live down south, or I want to live only behind like a sacred mountain in the Altai region. And it's like, well, maybe in certain parts of America, like my parents live in kind of the middle of nowhere, but you can drive by car to actually pretty decent hospital. And there is a Walmart that's also about a 15-minute drive. There's some stuff going on. There's some stuff you can drive to. There's nothing you can walk to, but there's definitely some things you can drive through. In Altai, you got God, and after you get citizenship, you might got a gun. And that's it. It is just really starting to be developed around like the one super mega highway that they built throughout the whole Altai Republic and Altai Krai, which is what? Frontier in English, the Altai Frontier. So, it's a different ball game. And the other thing, too, is the system doesn't want you to go there. How many times have I heard stories of, I tried to move to Krasnodar and the people there were assholes to me. Yep. I tried to move to the North Ossetia and people were assholes to me. I'm trying to move to the Crimea and people are assholes. Well, Kevin could help you out in Crimea to an extent, but Kevin has definitely felt some of the burn of the difficulties of trying to move to Crimea. Because to be honest, guys, we have to be real. For the most part, no matter what you hear, it's Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the regions around them. Despite the fact that Russia's huge, despite the fact that they want people to move to this or that or the other place, ultimately that's the realities of it, unless you're willing to fight for it. And that fight is a real fight, because just the default fight to live here is hard. Then when you're going to mix that in with like trying to do this again in the Altai Mountains, and you're like, great, I'm going to become a farmer in the Altai Mountains. I'm going to buy a bunch of cattle. It's like, okay, how do you buy cattle in a language you don't speak? And how do you buy land when you're not allowed to as a foreigner? You could buy it through me. I'd help you out. But so far, no one has used my services, despite the fact that I even created a company, a legal entity just to handle this, those kind of things. But so far, no one's used those services. So you see, So this is maybe a kind of a weird podcast to listen to as someone who's kind of like a Russia advocate, to telling you all these horrible things. But that's because I don't want people to be like disappointed. You have to kind of go into something knowing it's hard. It's kind of like how I would tell people that parenthood is a great thing. Children are a great thing. If you really want someone to love you, if you're not lying to yourself, because a lot of times men especially young guys, like teenage guys, I love you means they have some kind of tingling between their legs. And that's all that is, right? You really have kids. That's kind of when you find out what like real love to another human being is. It's like the love between parents and children, I think, is way stronger than like anything on earth, So it's pretty amazing. So I'm a big advocate of having kids, but there's a lot of negatives to having kids, and there's a lot of things that you're going to have to deal with along the way. It is a great reward, but it's a great reward that you have to earn, and it comes at a price and all that other stuff, right? And so Russia is kind of like that. I think it really, for the supposedly traditionalist people, supposedly conservative, supposedly Christian people who've messaged me over the years about this, like Russia really can't offer you what you at least say you want. But you're going to have a lot of humility, and you're going to have to work for it. All right? It is it is quite the brutal journey trying to immigrate here. So another thing that I should say before I forget is a lot of people in the not only do they sort of run by these like weird business ideas that are really something that you can do after you learn to speak Russian really well, and two, you have at least permanent residency, but better citizenship. Yeah, I know it's cool to dream, and that's one of the exciting things about going to another country. But until you really like get good in terms of your legal status and your language knowledge base, you're not going to be able to do much, and that's it. People are not going to be accommodating. There's a huge amount of headache to hire someone on a temporary residency permit, and no one's going to go through that headache. It's going to be a real tough time of a lot of cup ramen, you know what I mean? Which is called doshirak in Russian. It's a Korean word. So, anyways, but yeah. And again, about speaking the language, this is another thing. What I see in the chat, and this is another thing that could lead to disappointment, is people do not understand that they complain. They complain about like the Russian language test. Oh, how am I going to take this test? The test is easy. You should be worried about how you're going to get good at speaking Russian, because you have to. If you want to survive here, you have to speak Russian well. Or if you want to be able to do like any sort of interesting work or anything like besides teaching English or whatever your native language would happen to be, or something really boring and really uninteresting, you have to speak Russian well. Not just like okay, but well. And this whole idea of, well, I can speak Russian, but I'm not going to learn the cases. That is like, I'm going to try to drive a car that has no motor. It doesn't work that way. So again, that's another thing that I keep hearing repeated. Occasionally Russian people in some of the comments will be like, well, it's not that big of a deal that you only speak English. English is actually very popular, and we all have to study it in school. Try doing something here in English. Try starting a business in English without hiring anyone. If you want to start a business in Russia, my buddy Timur Pislangorov, Russia's #1 immigration lawyer, he can hook you up. He can do it for you, all that stuff. But that's because he's doing it, and you're paying him to do it, right? That's one thing is, hey, if you really think you're hot shit, come here and try to do all the bureaucracy we've talked about and submit it in English and see what happens. It's not going to work, So again, we're kind of trying to kind of wake people up here with this podcast, and especially to use this podcast in the future for these people who are just throwing these horrible, horrible pieces of advice on all my channels everywhere to foreigners about Russia. It's just it's leading to disaster, and so it's leading to disasters that I've seen with my own eyes. What else I want to talk about? Oh, Russians lie about their own culture. That's another thing. Like, one of the problems with Russia is they have a cult of officialness, and they tend to give very official answers. They're sort of like the like what kind of what you're told to say. Even now, even though there's no gun to your head. This isn't the Soviet Union. You don't have to say what's on some particular piece of paper. But if you ask Russians about their culture, it's going to be Pushkin and Lermontov and Dostoevsky and all that other stuff. And it is. They are part of Russian culture. But, when you actually live here, there's a lot more, like getting hammered and listening to Molchat Dama. Okay? Like, it is Victor Tsoi and going on road trips. It's barbecuing on a shitty, like, single-use grill out in the woods and then going swimming in your underwear. It's going off-road in a Lada. It's like, it's building your own fucking house. Even if there are permits you need, just doing it anyways, because fuck it. Like, it's this really different. It is not the ballet, and this is another thing where, I hear a lot of Westerners talk about Russia. Again, it's all Pushkin. It's all the Bolshoi theater. It's all the ballet, and Russians too. And that's not it. That is something that is part of the culture, but it is maybe part of like the high culture or the elite culture. But then again, honestly, if you've ever talked to like Russian billionaires, like I've mentioned this before, like the one Russian billionaire, we sort of semi-accidentally started filming buffalo on his weird island that he bought. What did he do with his money? He bought a whole island to fill with buffalo so he can shoot some. You know what I mean? That's more the reality of like what the Russian elite is. Okay? And so, first off, you'll be disappointed if you come here and you're because essentially, it seems, although don't quote me on this, I'm not going to sign my life over this, but it really seems like a lot of the sort of like Russian stereotype of Russia actually comes back from that one Churchill speech where he said that Russia was like a mystery wrapped in a riddle, swirling in an enigma. So I forget the exact quote because I'm terrible at quotes, but you know that one, the mystery wrapped in an enigma. And that stuff. And Russians really bit into that. They bit into it so much that they think that one foreign guy who probably didn't know shit about Russia, that opinion, that's what we're gonna. That's the Russia we portray. That everything is mysterious. I just watched a fantastic, and again in Russian, like 2-hour discussion of Russia's great philosopher Alexander Dugin on this kind of podcast-like program, and it was just like another example about how like. When Russians talk to you, everything is, oh yeah, we're enigmatic, and it's the mysterious Russian soul, which is total bullshit. Russia's greatest philosopher for 2 hours laid out all the sort of like behaviors within Russian society, cultural tendencies, how Russians are different from other ethnicities. He just lays it out, explains where it all comes from. There's no enigma. There's no mystery. The only mystery he mentioned during this 2 hours was that he said because Russians kind of feel like they need to be answering to like a greater call, like something like a divine mission, that provides a certain vagueness to what we're doing in Russia because we're trying to do something sort of beyond our abilities. And okay, I could kind of see that. That does explain a little bit of some vagaries in Russian society, but otherwise everything's understood, and Russians themselves understand this. But as soon as they start talking to you, it's the mysterious Russian soul. They're quoting Churchill's opinion of Russia, and they're telling that to you. I see it as being kind of like linked up to, like in America. Remember how during sort of like the Iraq War era, everyone said that them Arabs, they hate us for our freedom. They hate us because we're free. That's sort of an American view of what they think foreigners think about America, especially foreigners they don't understand, and it's also sort of maybe what they would want them to think. Like, yeah, foreigners hate us because we're awesome. And that's kind of the same thing with Russians. It's not so much about hate, but it's like, yeah, foreigners can't understand us. We're too mysterious. We're too deep. Our language is too complicated. They can't get us. It's a jingoistic, pseudo patriotic position. Again, seemingly created by an English person, not even by a Russian themselves. So, yeah. So again, guys, this may sound again horribly negative, which it is, but it's because I do not want people to get screwed over. So I'm gonna start looking at the messages. I'll maybe take some calls right now. But again, so first off, I want to apologize again if I've been too harsh towards people. I should have just made a video like this to send it. So that's number one. And number two, there's actually three things. So that's number one. Number two, Russia is bigger than you. If you come here, to the migration system, and also if you want to, I forgot one thing. This is another thing that keeps happening in the comments and chat and all that. Is a lot of people who come here say they believe in traditional values, but no one wants to get married. Men, I should say, men terrified to get married. Well, first off, in Russia, there's really no alimony unless you have kids. And if you're terrified of getting married, they can only take half of what you attain during the marriage. So if you're really that afraid, try to buy an apartment or some dinky house or something before you get married, and you'll have that for the rest of your life. So that's kind of what, like, number one. But again, it's this thing of like, well, you have to go to Russia because it's so conservative, it's so traditional. Oh wait, get married? Ew, no, I'm too bourgeois for marriage. I'm too bourgeois. I'm too important. Me to have kids. What, pay for children? Psh, that's for other people who believe in traditional values to do. You know? And if you have that attitude, then it's kind of like, what the fuck are you doing here? Why come to a place that is these supposed traditional and conservative values if you're not going to get married and have kids? Why? Same thing. You're not going to learn the language, or you're going to learn Russian without the cases. Get fucked. Why should you be here? Fuck off. It's just that simple. I don't know. It's something to really think about. All right. So again, and also too, I think a lot of people want to live in a society that doesn't have open borders. Russia's borders are closed. Try crossing them the hard way. You want to live in a society that has closed borders and has serious migration control, where they raid subway stations, raid all sorts of factories and businesses looking for foreign people and all this other, that are illegally there and all this other stuff, and deportations happen by the thousands every day and all this other shit. You want to live in a society like that? Well, then guess what? When you're the foreigner, it's going to be rough. I don't know why people don't understand that, but it's going to be real rough. So anyways, those are just kind of some of the things I wanted to go over. I'm starting to repeat myself. So anyways, let's see if there are any comments, and I will take calls. If someone wants to call in, remember there's a function within Telegram where you can kind of click on something and it'll raise your hand, and when your hand is raised, I can sort of unmute you. Basically, everyone's muted by default, and then you can talk to this program. And it'll be amazing. It's something we do very often. So anyways, let's see. What was the first comment? From Tim. So it's from Tim to Tim. You should reach out to InfoWars. I'm sure they would give you a fair interview. The American Journal with Harrison Smith would be a good one. Hey, Tim, if you're watching, please actually contact them for me. If you really want me to go on some sort of podcast or something, don't tell me. Do it, tell them. Be a one-time producer for me. Another good one would be the Health Ranger. He does long feature interviews. The problem is, Health Ranger, I have no problem talking to him, but I don't like discussing health-related issues because it's a very toxic topic that is completely full of lies and hearsay, and I'm not a scientist, so I don't have much to say about health. Yeah. But anyways, but even still, remember, if you want me to appear on some program, I'd be happy to, but you got to help me out. You got to talk to them. I can't. I work too much to become also a producer. Christopher, you can never get a fair share. Oh, that's something else. Brent, I used to listen to Mike Adams quite a bit and really enjoy his show. That's not so much about this. Let's see. Christopher, how to get married, have kid, get citizenship, get divorced. Oh yeah, Christopher is sort of talking about how some people have mentioned that basically there's a way to like people are talking about how to like game the system to like get married but then get divorced so that way you can get residency. Guess what? If you do that, you'll fucking lose. You will fucking lose. You will lose big. All that stuff is completely checked. There is no way to game the system on something like that. You're done if you try to do that. So Christopher says about how the have kid, get citizenship, get married, have kid, get citizenship, get divorced scenario really plays out. Quote, we asked your ex-wife if you married for a passport. Your ex said yes. Your citizenship is revoked and we're deporting you. If you anger us, you'll go to prison as well. Yep, that's how that stuff plays out, man. That is how that stuff plays out. Victor, Tim, I've heard there's a huge illegal immigrant problem in Moscow. Is that true? If so, what happens if those people get caught? They get deported. They get deported by the thousands over and over again. However, in places that are more corrupt, they can sometimes make fake passports and come back. But yeah, there are massive deportations all the time because there's work in Russia. If you haven't heard, the Russian economy does really well. And although, like I've told you before many times, salaries suck in Russia, if you are from an absolutely destitute, poor country, then the terrible salaries of Russia become not so bad. And, like in Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, there's a lot of unemployment, unfortunately. I don't even really understand why that's the case in Uzbekistan, but Tajikistan it sure is. But most of those people also don't want to be here, and they go back. So, the U.S. should consider that policy in terms of, like, punishing people for fake marriages, yes. How's the Serpukhov village going? Serpukhov is dead. Serpukhov is no longer an option. All we have left is Istra. So, yeah. And the final steps are being put into place. Raul. Timur never contacted me regarding my issue of my Russian passport. I had one, but I let it expire in 2013, and now they will not let me renew it. Okay, Raul, what you have to do is, this goes back to, like, one of the things I keep telling people that maybe I didn't mention during this podcast, is you have to be aggressive. No one, what you're saying is, I tried to reach out to someone and they didn't answer me. So, we have the balance. Think about this. Timur has more clients than he can handle. If he lets a few people slide by, what happens to him? Nothing. His life goes on. He still makes money and this, that. I don't know what your situation is, but losing your citizenship to a country could be life destroying. You have to be the one who's like hounding him. You have to be like, hey, let's go. I'm contacting you. I'm willing to pay you money. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm serious. And again, that's the thing. Sort of like a communication within Russia. You have to be dead serious about stuff, and you have to be aggressive. In fact, I think I saw a good example. I saw two dogs that were part of a dog sled get in a fight, and the one tore open the other one's ear. But then after that, the dogs kind of worked all together. The sled went back home. And that's kind of how things are in Russia, man. Sometimes you got to bite somebody's ear. So, yeah. Edward Nigma, hey Tim, is the Sochi area really coveted? I had a look at the real estate in the area and it seemed quite high, even though it's like an hour away. Is it high society or cottage area? Okay, well, about Sochi, again, this is one of these things about if you're planning to move to Russia, you are not going to be able to move to that region anyways, so it doesn't matter. That's something you can research maybe on your own when you'd already be in Russia, because Sochi is down south. Down south is really hard to immigrate to, and the immigration authorities want you there way less than Moscow and St. Petersburg do. So I really wouldn't worry about that at this point. But let me just answer your question for the sake of it. Sochi changed a lot. So here come the Olympics. Sochi was actually a very small area that was a sort of a Soviet resort town. Very small, not very built up. Filled with a lot of locals of various nationalities from the Caucasus Mountains. Here comes the Winter Olympics in 2014, and essentially what would be sort of like the center of Sochi gets completely leveled, and they build all the infrastructure for the Olympics. They build a lot of hotels, a lot of bars, and all this other stuff. They also build that gigantic Rosa Hutar ski resort complex that's sort of deeper into the mountains, and all that other good stuff. Who moves there? People with money from Moscow. So there was sort of an invasion of Muscovites. So Sochi has this sort of weird character. If you have sort of the original people who live there, who live in like small little dinky houses that are made by who knows what means, and sitting on top of that is some very Moscow glamour. Okay. The water around Sochi isn't exactly the most bacteria free of water on the planet. So it's not exactly the best like beach experience, especially because it's all stones, not so much sand. Um, but long story short, the character of the place is it is something where it was like very rustic and old school that got this sort of new central downtown planted onto it, and so it has a sort of like a dual nature, dual characteristics, I think would be one way to describe it. Would I live there? Yeah, if I could make money and have a job, it's cool. I mean, it's nice. There's some stuff to do. The weather's nice. I don't go swimming, so I don't care if the water is kind of terrible and full of bacteria. It doesn't really bother me very much. So yeah, it's a little bit bad with the traffic because it's all smashed by the water because of the mountains. So despite the fact there's not that many people there, the traffic can get really bad because there's just no room for roads. There is a train though. There's like a train line that goes. So you can do a little bit of public transportation action, but it doesn't run very often. I think like once an hour, if that. So, yeah. But anyways, I hope that answered your question. But again, dude, don't try to immigrate there. Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the areas around them. David, I asked an immigration lawyer and they said marriage, even without children, is a valid basis for the RVP. Well, good for them. If they've had success with that since they completely rewrote a lot of the laws and stuff, if that's true, that's awesome. Trust what an immigration lawyer has to say. If they have a good clientele, you do it. So good luck to you. And I hope that that is the case in the region you try to immigrate to. And it's also very good that you're using an immigration lawyer because trying to do this yourself, you will fail. You will flat fail. Not just you, David. I mean you, the royal you, which in Russian is a different word. There's two different words between you and the royal you. In Russian, that's grammatically obvious. So, anyways, you do that, and good luck. But I've been hearing the opposite. Raul, we get an update from Raul. I will contact Timur again. You'll not just contact him once, you'll contact him once, twice, thrice, until you, if this is important for you, then you have to fight for it. I've been aggressive for the past 4 years. I've even got the office of the Russian president to take care of the problem. But the pandemic started and they basically told me no appointments available at the Houston consulate. Oh, well, that's in Houston. That's outside. You're dealing with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from outside Russia. They don't give a shit. Aw, dude, come on. You're being ridiculous. You're being silly. You're trying to get an internal passport from an external source. That's not how it works, man. That is not at all how this thing works. Sorry, dude. You've got to have legal representation within Russia to help you get this problem solved. The presidential administration doesn't deal with stuff outside of Russia. It's internal. I have all the paperwork ready. I just need someone to help me pound on the consulate. Well, hopefully Timur can help you with that. I don't know, but who knows? Maybe you can get it. But ultimately, usually passports can only be attained from here. Maybe they could give you some sort of special permission to enter Russia in order to attain your passport. But internal passports, again, have to be attained internally. That's a huge problem that a lot of people have had over the years. It's like their internal passport was lost or something, and they're overseas, and maybe their like foreign or external passport expired or something. Basically, it creates a whole huge mess. So, yeah. So, interesting. But all the best, man. Yeah, keep going with Timur. He'll get around to it eventually. But unfortunately, because of the war, a lot of his partners have had to go fight. Yeah. Anyways, Bogdan wants to speak. I've talked to Bogdan before. Hello, Bogdan. You are on the air. Hello, Bogdan.
Forgive me.
Hi.
Hi.
What did you want to talk about?
So I have a question. What is the level of the prices? Actually, how much is the revenue?
Oh,
To leave cash, let's say.
let's hold on. One sec. This is one of the things where there's various different cost of living calculators here. I don't know, Bogdan. Let's see. Can I send you a message? Oh my gosh, I can. I just sent
Yeah,
you
of course.
there. Cost of living in Moscow. This site Numbeo actually does a pretty good job. Was there something really specific you wanted to know about cost of living? But I
No,
can just tell you in general.
actually, I would
Pardon you. Yep.
no, in general, I would like to know about from your experience because you are living over there.
Wait, what?
Something like 3,000. Huh?
Again?
You are living over there.
Oh, dude.
I said you are living over there, and I would like to know if something like 3,000 is okay for living in Moscow per month.
Okay. So, unfortunately, your audio is very bad. So, you want to know if you can live on $3,000 per month in some place. What place?
Moscow.
Moscow.
Yeah, in Moscow.
Yeah, you can. You'll have a pretty comfortable life. Well, if you have kid number 3 or 4, things will start to get a little bit tight. But the average salary in Moscow is, I think, around 100,000 rubles. So people squeak by on that. But you could blow through 300,000 rubles pretty easily. It also depends, like what kind of lifestyle do you want? What are you looking for? Where do you want to live? Like what kind of life?
Actually, I'm single, and I said I'm single. I don't have any kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
but this goes back to what I've talked to people before. You'll eventually have kids. So you got to think about what that's going to be like in the future. Anyways.
Yeah. No, but just I wanted to know if it is okay from 3,000 as a level of living.
So now I hear you say 40,000. 40,000 what?
No, 3,000.
3,000. Okay. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
$3,000 would provide you a pretty darn comfortable lifestyle. I think that's the kind of money that a lot of people would be envious of. Essentially, you would be in sort of like the top 10 or 15% of earners in Russia. That would, kind of put you in, especially again, like if you have no costs besides yourself, it'll put you in a sort of a situation where you'd be, how should I put it? Oh, you'd be pretty well off. But the thing is that you're not going to be able to live on 300,000 rubles because you're going to need to buy a place to live. So you're going to have to rush as fast as you can to be able to get, unless you have some sort of huge amount of savings, you're going to have to rush to be able to get some sort of residency and some sort of job so you can eventually take out a mortgage and then start paying down a mortgage, which, given the terrible current rates, you're probably going to pay, I don't know, anywhere from 50 to 100,000 rubles per month for a mortgage. So,
Yeah.
or more, because Moscow's really expensive. And again, it all depends on where you want to live. If you want to live downtown, then 300,000 rubles is actually not that much. If you don't mind living kind of far away from downtown, then 300,000 rubles could be a lot.
Okay.
But you're not gonna live anywhere near the Kremlin. That's for sure.
No. I don't want to live in the center. I hate actually center cities.
Yeah. So if you don't mind living a little bit far away, I'm sure you can find something. If you want to live in Chekhov, you can get a one-room apartment for 20,000 rubles a month. So that's a tiny fraction of the amount of money that you have. But you would want to, if you enjoyed living in Chekhov, you'd want to buy that place, not just rent it. Buy. Do not rent. Renting is for suckers. I don't care what people like Dave Ramsey say. Do not rent in Russia. If you can buy, you must buy, or you are screwed when you're an old person. All right. So, anyways, I'm going to mute you there, Bogdan, not because you're a bad person, but I think we're done. Christopher and Victoria are wanting to talk. Hello, Christopher and Victoria. Hello. I'm not sure which one of you this is, but that's part of the game, part of the mystery. Hello. You are unmuted. Click the little icon to talk. That looks like a microphone. Hello.
Testing. I hope I'm not.
Gotcha. Okay. Hello. Anyways, what'd you want to ask?
I didn't quite hear what the reason was. That was specific reasons that are causing some people to consider to leave or to have some emergency problems? It seems a little mysterious and murky to me, very
Sure.
vague.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and thankfully you don't have an echo, so this I can leave you on the line. It is because some people had horrible trouble with getting temporary residency, despite being promised by a lot of foreigners and Russians that it would be easy. So there's the first sort of knife in the back. There's stuff related to that, stuff related to not being able to find a job, stuff being related to not living in Moscow or St. Petersburg, and the massive difficulties that creates for foreign people until they get citizenship. So it's that kind of whole pie. It's kind of like, okay, I came here, and now I'm living here, and it's like, well, now what can I do? It's like, especially if you don't have permanent residency, you basically have a real hell of a time getting a job. And it's like, I've got no money and I've got no job and I'm not allowed to have a job and I'm in the middle of nowhere. What do I do? That's kind of the overall thing between all of these people. Some of them have had a few run-ins with the migration services that also put them off, that they felt that they went over the line and they don't want to live in a country that treats people that way.
I can understand. Yes, it really is. As a person who's been an Orthodox Christian for many years and a person of faith, I think that that's the only way I can make sense of life and even the immigration process is that there has been in some divine providence in some mysterious way, and I think also people who have some unique skills, maybe ones that are valued in the country, or maybe even better social skills, better ability to learn the language. All these things do make a difference. It definitely is complicated.
From the moment you get here to the moment that you have permanent residency, your ability to have a job bureaucratically is insanely difficult. So it doesn't matter how talented you are. You see? It's part of the war to be here.
Yes.
You essentially have this period that takes about 3-ish years or something, winds up being where you are probably going to be doing something dodgy, or you're not going to be working or whatever. You know, I've heard from some people who are really disappointed in Russia that immigration to Russia is for rich people. You know, and I can kind of see their point. So, yeah.
I can sympathize a little bit with
that. Too is, a lot of times, sometimes people of faith, they mask passivity in this wrapping of faith. They essentially use a belief that Christ is leading them to do nothing. And if someone leads you, you have to walk with them, or you're just sitting there. But unfortunately, they don't seem to see things that way.
I agree with you. I also think that my limited experience has been that people who are migrating, who've either lived abroad in another country, or maybe like they're even actually from a European country or some other country besides the North American ones, that they adapt a little easier somehow to the culture or the bureaucracy. I don't really know, but another thing I also see is some people find the ability to work. I don't know if it's under the table. I guess I haven't really realized, but like just an internet job, whether it's some teaching or something like this, as a means for survival in a temporary period. I tend to think that's a good thing, but you know, as long as one's able to do that. But I agree, it takes strategizing. It's there's complexity to it. So it's a great conversation you're having. I appreciate you saying this. I think it takes some integrity on your part.
Christopher, I hope I'm making it clear that I'm not, like, all these people have told me that they're leaving, especially the one that was recently. I am not angry at this person at all. Zero. And a lot of the stuff that I talked about, sort of criticisms of like the way some foreigners think, that doesn't apply to them. I would say almost all of what I had to say, but to that person, it's just sad. It's sad. It makes me sad. They're certainly sad about it, and I feel I don't even know what I feel, but a certain level of like maybe I let these people down or something. It sort of filled me with a terrible feeling that made me want to do a podcast. But I'm not angry with these people, and I think that in a lot of ways they did quite do a lot of the things I blame the sort of generic inquirers who comment way too often on under certain posts. But the thing is, dude, if you think about it, if these people who I think more or less kind of try to do everything the right way, even though they were lied to about certain issues, about the difficulty of them, but besides that, like if they can't do it, these people who are coming in total arrogance mode, they're not going to be able to do it. So, yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of a weird thing that I'm trying to do here, I think. But anyways, do you have any other questions or comments or something? Hello?
Well, I can only say I'm thankful to God that I've gotten as far as I have. My wife seems to have just passed the first temporary residence language test, and I'm hopefully about to do the same in a day or two, having some practice and things. So as I say, I think many people from the United States, for example, where I've lived for most of my life, they don't realize just how different it is in certain ways. And I really, having seen many people from like Switzerland and Germany who have immigrated here, I find oftentimes they have an easier time, even if they were to go back to the original country. It's very close. I just think there's a big learning curve, and I think people who are familiar with life outside the United States, which has various differences, they have an easier path, but people who are very comfortable and very strongly accustomed to the uniqueness of United States, they really have to think outside the box. They have to fight. You're right. They can't be passive. They have to fight in a way that's not like violent, but really like you're saying, yes, we'll keep working. Don't give up. Be determined. Immigrants are always determined people. I had immigrants in my family who struggled to immigrate to the United States. Even just 30, 40 years ago, and I guess that was my example. I just do what they did to immigrate to the U.S., except I'm going the other direction. So it's a mystery, but I think it's a great conversation. I think it's a very positive discussion you're having, and I respect what you're saying. Yes, that you're taking this constructively, and you're not upset. It's a wonderful thing, and I hope God will help everyone to have success. I wish them the best. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you then. Comment, thank you very much. And if we want to go back to America, too, remember how, like the United States, the old logic was, it's like, okay, you come from Europe and you immigrate to the United States, and you're going to have to really work, but it'll give your children a better future. Or you're going to be, you come from, like, Germany in, like, the 1700s where people are killing each, or I think it was more the 1600s. But anyways, there's a legacy of Protestants and Catholics, various flavors, all killing each other for minor nuances in Christianity. And you come to America and, you have to work, but you're free from that. And so you kind of have to think in some ways that's like, well, I'm coming to Russia, and a lot of the madness of like the globalist elite and the whole LGBT thing is all being broken down and destroyed. To what extent it's destroyed, I don't know, but the idol to Satan is being quite, at the very least, spray painted all over and thrown, rolls of toilet paper being thrown on it, if it's not being already completely deconstructed. So it's good to be here, but it comes at a cost. It's the same thing with America. You want the American dream, you got to pay the price. And you want the Russian dream, you got to pay the price. Bogdan wants to talk again. Hello, Bogdan. You are back on the program, if I can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay.
This time you hear me better because I changed, actually. I put you on the phone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, another question which I have. How are the people? How easy is to integrate with the people, the Russian people, actually?
Okay, well, that's a little bit different because, Bogdan, if I remember, you are from Romania. And so one of the problems is I am definitely not an expert in, like, Romanian culture. And I do know that, like, the Balkans are a little bit different from other places.
Yeah, they're quite very different.
There's kind of a problem where I don't know if I can answer your question.
But you as an American.
Oh, as an American. Okay. Well, let me then mute you here and let me try to answer that question. I'd say that there's a bit of a paradox. Okay? As you guys know, I call myself the strange man who lives in the woods. That's how I sort of position myself, because I am a very strange person in a lot of ways. And it's not because I'm cool or I'm edgy or I'm dangerous. I would say it's the opposite. I think my strangeness is a massive minus in my life, okay? And in a lot of ways, I'm actually very bad for Russia because I'm a massive loner. I don't really like a whole hell of a lot of. Ironically, I can give a really good speech. I can do a really good podcast. Do I want any human interaction? No. I am really not a people person. I am the exact opposite. Get the F away from me. That's more my outlook. And that is not a very Russian way of doing things. Russians want to celebrate together and have holidays together and drink together. In fact, drinking alone is really considered something for losers in Russia. There's a lot more togetherness and team spirit and all that kind of stuff. And even like the advertisements for guys to go off to war, is one of the slogans is "Be with your own guys." I mean, what an interesting thing to say. Like, join the U.S. Marines. There's Americans there. Or if you're French, join the French cuirassé, not because of the horses and fancy breastplates, but because it's full of French guys. That's a kind of a different thing. Russia is a little bit more collectivist, and I'm kind of sort of bad at that. So that's where I'm very bad at, and I think a lot of other people who, especially people who really like to send me messages that have a lot of feelings in them, and like pictures of like, I don't even, like people who are very, let's just say, people, I think could really like certain aspects of the way that Russians do stuff, like their office culture, where it's like, maybe I shouldn't say where I was. Let's just say I had to visit someone and pick up something on March 7th of this year, okay? And this person works at an office. And of course, because the day before Women's Day, everyone was just getting hammered. And so I basically, after I picked up this like one document, I just decided, I'll violate my usual normal rules, and it's party time, baby. So we're, doing shots and telling some stories and all that kind of stuff. And that is definitely not the way things go in America. Okay. So, and I think something that people could really, I think a lot of you, if you were able to actually, get a job here and speak Russian really freaking well, you could have some real fun at like an office party in Russia. Oh, that's the good stuff, But where my strengths are in Russian is, when people give you, one thing is, it's almost like people are constantly testing you over stuff, is one thing that'll drive you nuts as an American is if you have some bag with you. Hey, what's with the bag? If you have some kind of like cut on your face, what's with the cut? Anything. You always are going to have to be answering questions, or if someone says something really sarcastic to you, you really have to be able to, biggest part of Russian culture is really trash talking, but not in like the ghetto way where it's long, but I would say witty retort, like a single witty retort to crush someone is a huge part of Russian culture. And I think that that's very alien for like white Americans and Brits and all that, where you really have to be able around to, I'm trying to think of some. I even said one the other day. Someone will, I had a bottle of Cool Cola, the new Pepsi, right? And so one guy's just like, "How the fuck can you drink that?" And of course, because I've been here so long, I said, "Look, Coca-Cola makes about $4 billion gross a year. Pepsi makes about the same. So apparently, about half the planet is drinking this stuff. What's your fucking problem?" Like, that's very Russian interaction. That's a normal interaction between coworkers. And that, I think, is very hard for people who aren't more testosterone-y to get used to. Or like a couple weeks ago, here's a life in Russia. So I was offered a taxi from this one TV show that I was going to be on. And I tried to actually pick a spot for the taxi driver to meet me that I thought would be convenient for him, and I guess it wasn't. So anyways, he had an unusual type of car with an unusual color. And I saw in the distance, there's a big building. Imagine it's like the letter, what is this? It's a backwards L I'm drawing. So there's a little part here and a long part. And so I went along the long part because I saw that strange, unusual vehicle with an unusual color parked over there. I walk up to it, and the license plate number is different. And I'm like, oh man, this isn't it. So I walk around, then all the way around this building, which again is much longer going this way than it is this way. And then I finally see another that type of car with that type of color. And so I walk up to the taxi driver, and he's like, well, what took you so long? I was like, oh, well, I thought you were parked over there. It's like, well, why did you just walk around the short way? Why'd you walk around the long way? What were you thinking? I was like, well, do I live here? Do I know the layout of every building? It seemed to me that, I need to walk over there, and it seemed like it would just be easier to keep walking around the building. I don't know how long the building goes, I don't know, east-westwards or whatever the hell it was. Well, why'd you do that? I said, I just answered you. Well, why'd you do that? I answered him. Also, the problem is, in Russian, the swear words are a lot more effective. I was like, well, I guess I'm a fucking retard. I'm a complete fucking retard. And you are a living god genius, and I should suck your dick. He was like, how can you say that? How can you ask me these kind of questions, motherfucker? Like, that's how it is, man. And that's a lot of, things like that. As if people, there's this weird thing where you kind of always constantly have to, again, like with the dogs in a pack. One dog will start to kind of ride you. You have to nip it. So it stops riding your ass. Nip them. And that's kind of what I did with the taxi driver. I laid that guy out verbally. I dressed his ass down. But I did it in a way that was sort of humiliating. Say, well, I guess I'm such a horrible person. I'm such an idiot. This, that, and the other. So that stuff like that, Western foreigners can't really deal with very well. Yep.
Yeah, so basically they are quite very similar to us.
Oh,
because we are doing the same thing. We have some. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
We are doing the same thing, basically. It's having some fun, having some trashy words, sometimes giving the good answer, giving the good reply.
Well, yeah, and remember, dude, I'm from a black neighborhood, so that's like the norm. So anyways, man, another one wants to talk to us. Another one. The rap song. Another one. I think I'll buy another one. Another one. Hello, you're on the air. Click the microphone button to unmute yourself. That's the word.
Hey Tim, how are you?
Hi. To be honest, today I'm actually really sad for other people. So that's how I am. But anyways, what's your question?
I'm sorry. Greetings from Miami, by the way.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. What language resources do you recommend to learn Russian in an effective way? Do you suggest immersion, or do you use a program that you?
In my personal opinion, the only thing that actually really works is immersion. I can't imagine doing it any other way. The best textbook is called Russian Course by Penguin Publishing, and the other best book you can get, which is really what you should start with, is English Grammar for Students of Russian. And I believe the book is colored teal to this day. The cover hasn't changed. What does it do? It explains how the English language works and then how like the Russian language works, so you actually understand the mechanisms of the language, and it makes the whole thing so much easier. It takes all the mystery out of it. It's an amazing book, and it's also very short and probably not very expensive.
Would it be okay if you type that in the chat, please? What's it called again?
Okay, hold on a second. I'll actually just write it directly to you with the power of Telegram. So we have English Grammar for
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of Russian. And we have English Course by Penguin. It should be Penguin Publishing. But it could be like Penguin Book something, whatever. But those are both really good ones. But again, one of the things, the immediate things, is one of the kind of paradoxes, is I would tell people also, is getting a job really helps improve your language, because it forces you to constantly have to get better at learning to speak. But the problem is it's kind of hard to get a job if you speak Russian poorly. So it is a little bit of a catch-22. But yeah, I don't understand how anyone can learn a language without immersion. I just don't get that. I can't even imagine it, but apparently some people can. I can't.
So. understand that, but the thing is, I would like to show up to Russia naked without
Oh no, it's good to get started. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
also, dude, there's only 33 letters, and some of them don't get used very much. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think the real most absolute critical thing is everyone should have the alphabet mastered by the time they get here, and maybe how they should write their name. Although you might be surprised how your name is written, but definitely some basics, but especially the alphabet. When you get here, if you don't even know the alphabet, you're in deep doo doo.
No, I understand. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer my
Yep, all
question.
the best, man. All right, so that was another one. So that's a good online name. I like that one. Another one. Nikita wants to talk. Okay, Nikita spelled the Greek way. So, Nikita, are you in Cyprus or the Isle of Rhodes or somewhere? Hello, Nikita. Hello.
I am in Athens. Hello, hello.
Hello, Athens. Okay.
I wanted to ask
Yeah.
this. There are many people that want to come to Russia
Mm-hmm.
from Greece, from Italy, from USA, but the procedure for the government is long because they have to verify each person.
Mm-hmm.
And also for the people, it's difficult to arrive in a new country and so on.
Yeah.
So the idea to create an organization that manage this, and the people that the foreigner that come to Russia have to go to a town, and in this town they will stay like one year, and after they can go around.
Okay.
In this way, they will finish.
All
Okay.
right, so let me say first off, immigration is handled by what is called the Ministry of Internal Affairs, which is essentially the police. Okay, and if you know the attitude of how policemen work, they don't like that they're not gonna do that. And secondly, how could someone just live somewhere where for a year? By what mechanism would they be renting or what?
Yes, also to help because I was doing a plan for Italian that wanted to go to Spain.
Hmm.
Yes, that if they move in a group of people, they can help each other. They
Yeah.
can stay in an hotel, so can be rented an entire hotel, so everybody will spend less and will learn the language, will
Okay.
have contact for a work. So a period, an introduction, we can
Yeah.
say.
Well, again, one of the problems with
I
Russia
don't know.
is you have to have a permanent address established to immigrate, and you can't establish a permanent address at a hotel. So, see, that's another one of these sort of Russia things that makes doing stuff like that very difficult. And yeah, so anyways, let me mute you there, Nikita. Not because you're a bad person, but a little bit of background noise there. And yeah, so trust me, I've heard a lot of very good-hearted like program ideas, but the government, especially the Ministry of Internal Affairs, they don't like any of that stuff. That is not the way they want to operate. Trust me, President Putin has numerous times given the green light to make major changes in the immigration system, but when the sort of call comes down the ladder, very few people want to do it. I think the police are happy with things the way they are for the most part. And to be honest, one time when I was at a meeting, the representatives of the police were like, "There's already too many fucking programs. There's already too much help for. What do you want from us? Get fucked." That was basically what they had to say. So, you know, unfortunately, that's much more of like a State Department way of doing things. Whereas in America, you have like the State Department is really the masters of citizenship and immigration, and that's when you get into sort of like programs and green cards and attracting people and being able to create like interesting, unique, whatever to achieve a certain goal. The problem is sometimes some of those goals are maybe not the best idea, but that's a much more State Department way of looking at things than it is a Ministry of Internal Affairs way of looking at things. So, anyways, Anyways, it looks like we don't have any more hands raised. Let me go see if there's any final questions, and then I guess I'll go to sleep, because tomorrow I'm gonna go vote for President Putin. Although I'm not sure when I'm gonna upload this, so who knows? Who knows when tomorrow will be when this is uploaded? Anyways, there's not much. Let's see. Still waiting to pay for the Easter home. I know, man. I'm still waiting to get the stuff finalized. Everything that's happening with Easter in the American Village is now out of my hands. It's all in the hands of Timur for now. So there's nothing more I can do. Uglerod wants to talk. One of my favorite names for a user online. Uglerod.
Привет, team. How are you, man?
I'm fine. Could be better.
I hear tomorrow is the national election in the Russian Federation, and I had been reading a little more by accident through the Ghost standards about how the electronic voting machines in Russia have cryptography to the Ghost 2012 standard. But I was just wondering, is the process of voting easy and convenient for you?
Well, I only voted once, and that was for the 2020 referendum. And yeah, it was just you should walk in and you show your passport, and I think it was doing X's on a piece of paper, I believe, if memory serves me correct, or it was a check. But anyways, it was pretty obvious. It was also pretty obvious that the referendum would pass anyways. I was not able to vote for the gubernatorial elections that affected the Moscow region, because I tried to vote. Basically, I tried to online file to vote for somewhere else, like not vote near where I live, but like vote in a convenient location, and it screwed up, and the people didn't see me there. So one time I actually did lose my vote because of some sort of systemic glitch. Yeah.
That could happen here too, even in America.
Well, one thing is, I am definitely not an expert on the Russian electoral system, but I can say that the one thing that is different about it is federal. So every ballot looks the same throughout the whole country. The entire process is the same throughout the whole country. Okay? So that's one thing that I could say might be a positive.
That's definitely different than what we have here. As you know, it's every state for themselves, and it's private capitalist companies who own the contracts for the machines. So we have no way to trust how it is being done in the computer system.
If you want to talk about people who sort of discuss like electoral fraud, there have been accusations of ballot stuffing in the past. So when you have the paper trail, there's a weakness to every system, and the weakness to the paper trail is that someone's going to be stuffing, or something like that. Or if you're I don't know, voting from the front lines, who knows how many people are actually voting? It's like one of those things. So
well, I have it on good authority from friends of mine who would know better than I that during our election there was definitely every type of nonsense going on. Stuffing, throwing things away, things getting lost. On purpose, though. On purpose. Okay, that's cool.
I don't know, man. That's kind of a topic for another day, but
it's a lot, man. I wish you to have a good, happy election day for your first presidential election.
Well, this year it's 3 days. It's tomorrow, the day after, and the day after that. So it's like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's a whole electoral mini season. Yeah.
Well, here we have the voting month, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Again, I'm not a super expert on all of this stuff here about the voting system, but one of the things that with this year is easy is it's like Putin's popularity has never been higher. And it's kind of like the philosopher Alexander Dugin, who I've already mentioned today, said this year it's more like a referendum. Do we like Putin or don't we? And that's kind of what it's going to break down to, and I think the majority do. So, we're getting the type of democracy that the West doesn't like, when the majority is getting what it wants, but not in the right way, not in the pretty way with these sort of like fake little parties that battle between each other and all that. But anyways, I'm going to mute you, not because you're a bad person, but I think we had enough. Christopher, let's finish with you, unless someone else wants to call in, because I'm not seeing any messages. Christopher, you are back. Or it could be Victoria, because you have a dual account. So,
yes. Well, it's been a wonderful discussion. I'm very pleased to have participated and to have been listening. I'll make just two passing comments. First, that because I've somehow been able to be in an area where there is a few German-speaking people from Germany or Switzerland. And I've observed accordingly that what they tell me is there's like 2,000 people from Germany or Switzerland combined, somewhere in that area, who've immigrated here in the past 3 years. I don't really know how. And it seems they have a bit of like forums and networks and Telegram groups to keep in touch. Quite a few in Krasnodar, too. So, my observation has also been that there's a special interest and even love that many Russian people have for the Germans immigrant here, and many of the Germans have for them. It's almost like there's a symbiotic relationship.
Because, dude, where did a lot of Russians flee to in the early 90s? Germany. Because first off, there are a lot of people on the territory of the like the former Soviet Union who are ethnically German. There are tons, okay? And that was one of the things that kind of happened during World War II is a lot of the Germans were sort of like deported to the far reaches of the Soviet Union because they were afraid they'd be loyal to Hitler or something. So there were already a lot of people who were ethnically German. And when the communism fell, I believe Germany had like programs to make it easy for these Germans to come back home. And then after 20 years, they kind of woke up and they're like, wow, Germany's turned into a nightmare hellhole. And then all these people want to come back. So that's kind of who you're seeing, and their kids. That's why there's so many people from Germany, because the numbers that went there in the 90s were crazy high.
Yeah, I agree with you, but they're also very good at problem solving, and I think it's a beautiful thing. And there was a particular woman whose home I've been to, and she was interviewed on Russian television, and there's about 1 million Russians. They were gloating, they were gleeful over she even sung a Russian lullaby that her grandmother taught her in East Germany, and it touched people's hearts so much. It was really a beautiful thing. And having, visited her, known her firsthand, and made it all the more touching to me. So I think that bodes well for the future here. And I also think that one way or the other, there will be, I'm optimistic that the immigration system, ways to encourage people to make it a little less difficult somewhere in the bureaucracy, something is bound to happen. I don't know how, but something will improve here someday in the next few years. I see some Russians even lobbying the Duma to certain people to do this. So there's something in the air of change, though it might seem not so quick. I'm optimistic, and I think you have been very positive as well. Thank you.
The special, let me then put you on mute then. The special military operation changed everything. It has really changed Russian society. It has really thrown a wave of optimism and a sort of new, like, we can do things potentially differently or better, or go back to the way things were in the past that were different and better. This is a little bit of a surprisingly optimistic time period for a very unoptimistic nationality. Anyways, Anne wants to talk. Hello, Anne. We're taking your call. Hello.
Hi there, Tim. Just to note, very interesting caller on the Germans, how welcome they are in Russia. And, in these times, there is so much those two nationalities can offer each other. It's just a natural fit in many ways. And I want to point out to that gentleman, there are movies and clips of Russian people welcoming German soldiers. There was this great misunderstanding among people, but the ordinary people.
German soldiers? What do you mean by that?
Oh yeah. You can see this in documentaries. I have to think of the times. World War II, obviously World War II, early on. Okay, so I can expand further. There were many Russians who felt that the Germans would actually save them from communists, from Reds, and they welcomed. Pardon?
the Vlasovцы, the guys who fought for Germany, the Russian guys who fought for Germany during World War II.
I don't know that. No, I don't know. I'm not referring to that at all. These are just Russian ordinary people. You can see them bringing food and flowers to the German soldiers who didn't want to be there in the first place. I mean, they people would never have animosity towards other people.
I don't know.
It's always a politician.
You might be mistaken, because I think that those images really come from Western Ukraine, and that a lot of Eastern Europe kind of looks the same. And in Western Ukraine, those sort of things of welcoming the German troops, that definitely happened, and there's definitely video footage of that. That is for sure.
No,
Russians
I'm definitely
themselves
talking.
know, because the Germans enacted a campaign of terror against the Russians from the get-go. There wasn't like some sort of weird period where they thought that maybe the masses would turn against the Bolsheviks. It was burn everyone alive, kill everyone from the get-go in 1941. So what you're saying doesn't match up to, at least the way I understand history.
I'll have to send it to you, Tim, because most definitely it was not Western Ukraine. Most definitely, I can tell you that. So I'll try to find those things and send it to you. But it does bode well for people appreciating people. And here's another thing I'll tell you. Years ago, I saw there was an older Russian woman. Almost a peasant, she's overweight, with a babish, with a scarf on, and she had tears. She was saying, "Oh, the Germans, they're giving us their last piece of bread to help us. They're giving us their last piece of bread." So I'm telling you, there's more goodwill in history.
I've been to a lot of small towns in Russia, and the place where the Germans would execute people is usually marked.
Interesting.
I'll tell you one thing, Ann. If you ever come here to Russia, you are free to believe whatever you want. Never mention that your viewpoint on this issue to anyone if you're here. Just we'll keep it to yourself.
Really? All right, I'll have to find that stuff. World War II is alive.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll have to find that for you, Tim, because I'd love to know the truth.
Put it this way: that'd be like going up to a bunch of really gangster black guys and being like, "You know what? I heard on the internet that really chattel slavery wasn't so bad, and it's basically the Jews' fault." Like something like that. They're not gonna take that very well.
Okay, well, I think, was it Christopher that was just talking? I mean, Christopher was just saying that there's sort of a natural welcoming between some Germans and Russians. So I do.
Well, yeah, because of the so many Germans immigrated to Russia, especially during Catherine the Great. That was the giant Volga German super immigration wave. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of people, and a lot of people were able to maintain their German language skills for generation upon generation. In Kazakhstan, there were a lot of Germans. In fact, there are certain places in Germany that are or in Kazakhstan that actually have like German names because there used to be so many Germans there. But a lot of ethnicities fled Kazakhstan in the 90s. So like the sort of like Volga Germans in Russia, even before people started coming back, that was still kind of a thing. Whereas in Kazakhstan, for better or worse, depending how you look at it, like all the like German enclaves created by Stalin, forcing them to go to Kazakhstan, the Chechen ones, those have all pretty much vanished into history as everyone went back to where they came from initially. So.
All right. Try to find it for you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Talk to you later. All right. Someone else. Another one has something to add. Another one, yes. I don't like to end the program when we still have calls. So another one. What did you want to add from sunny Miami?
Let me ask you a quick question. This is me again. You've been doing this for a long time now. Is there any common demographics that you see interested in moving in Russia? Mostly North Americans, Europeans. What's a common element you see?
Here's kind of a problem. Is since I kind of have met some other relatively notable foreigners. People who speak French as a native language, they have more of a French language online presence, and so they probably get a lot more French people who are interested. So the problem is because I only speak two languages, and one of those is Russian. I have a very like confirmation bias as to who
Hmm.
communicates with me. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah.
like would you like Anne just mentioned, there is a very strong like this German go back Germans going back home to Russia paradoxical thing kind of happening, but I don't really experience that very much myself because that's not in my world. You know, people who are speakers of German don't really contact me about being curious about Russia or how to immigrate. It's all people who speak English. So
I
like
understand.
I love having Bogdan on the program. Bogdan, we love you, baby. But he's like the only Romanian guy. But maybe there's interest in Romania. I don't know because Bogdan speaks English well. I don't speak Romanian at all. You see?
I just thought that would have been like North Americans who trying to contact you or most interested in going to Russia.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
I mean,
that's
if
that's
you want
why.
to talk about who contacts me, yeah, it is very much your North America. Obviously, your England, Australia. So sort of like the highest thing is that because you know certain people from the British Empire do not like listening to American accents, but there are some who do. So you definitely got our you know England, Ireland, well Northern Ireland and the actual
Mhm.
Ireland, that kind of you know the British Isles or whatever zone. And your Australia, New Zealand are kind of the second tier, and then a lot of people from Western Europe who just speak English phenomenally well. Like
Mhm.
they've definitely had a lot of people contact me from the Netherlands and Belgium, but of course North America seems to be kind of king, and of course male overall. The real people who move to Russia are overwhelmingly male.
And what about in terms of age? Do you see like normally like younger people or mostly older people?
Well, in the past, I would say successfully, it seemed like it was easier when you're younger and single. But the people who want to move now are family people who want to. It's like the man of the family who wants to save his kids from the dangers of insane
The
child
West.
protective services, the whole LGBT nightmare, and all that other stuff. So it's sort of like a fatherly desire to protect their children. So you're seeing. So again, I say male skewed because it's really the father that usually is the one who's like, we've got to do something, you know.
Yeah.
Not to say that the mothers don't go or don't care about their kids or something. I'm just saying it usually is the dad who's more the initiator of the idea. So I would say that over time, it has really become sort of like family man fighting the system, and definitely a lot of retired people who are just kind of sick of everything. So there's definitely a sort of retirement segment. Is there so like, but none of these are really dominant. It almost seems like they're even. Like you have younger single guy, family guy, retired couple. It almost seems that sometimes like it's like 33, 33, 33, to be honest, at this point. However, in the recent past before COVID, it was like the single guy was like 80, it was 80% him and then 20% everybody else.
I understand. Thank you so much for that. I fall within that single guy category, so
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you
yeah.
for clarifying that.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
you've kind of declined percentage wise, but there's still plenty of you. So yeah, but
Thank you.
so
Thank you, sir.
anyways, yep. So that's that for that. Uglarod, we'll give Uglarod and Bogdan one more chance to talk. I only usually let people talk twice, but we'll be special today because I think today's kind of going well. And anyways, if you guys are really happy with
Hey,
this, hello there, Uglarod. What else do you have to say? Excuse me, I'm tripping over my words.
oh, it's okay, Tim. I just wanted to leave a quick note on history and Russian-German relations. Although I am no expert in the topic, my understanding of the Soviet occupation of East Germany, there was a lot of mixing between German and Russian peoples, and
Yeah.
a whole segment of Russian people ultimately got to consider East Germany as essentially their homeland until they were effectively kicked out. But even to this day, there are a lot of Russians who speak German and Germans who speak Russian in terms of diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
I've spoken to a few retired guys who lived in East Germany
Yeah, yeah,
through
definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of ties between Russia and Germany over the years, and we've talked about this program, so I'll kind of spare the repeating myself too much. But before World War One, everyone in the Russian aristocracy, from what they at least write, was absolutely certain that there would never be like a major war between the Russian Empire and the German Empire because there was so much interconnection between the aristocracies. It just seemed illogical. They felt like there was enough sort of cultural especially with like the Prussians, that there was enough the cultures were close enough that they wouldn't really be able to butt heads. Well, the 20th century proved that wrong. So, hey. But anyways, let me then talk to Bogdan, absolute last. Bogdan, you've been on 3 times, which is crazy. Normally that is not allowed, but today is a special day because I'm trying to vent my feelings of frustration and failure. My own failure, not the failure of other people. Ultimately, if I explain things badly, it means I'm the loser. Yes.
Yeah, just a small question because I think another one put a very good question. How was the crisis over there during the COVID period?
Oh,
I
dude,
understood that you
Bogdan, we've
lived.
talked about this so many times before. Now you're just gonna have to look for
Sorry, I
advertisement.
did.
Sorry, I'm not going into all that, but it was much better than in a lot of countries, especially Australia and New Zealand. Holy moly! The fascism rides a kangaroo, my friend. That was nuts down there. But anyways, it wasn't too bad here, especially if you owned a house. And now houses have gotten really freaking expensive. So anyways, guys, I guess I'm going to go to sleep. So anyways, this was good. Maybe I need to have more dark, emotional live streams where I express my own feelings of failure because this one went really well. So anyways, guys, long story short, Russia, get good or go home.